everyone. Welcome to the Magic of Painting. My name is Linda Riesenberg Fisler. I'll be your host today. This is episode 2 of season 2. And as you can see, I have an old canvas out. I was playing around one day with markers and just kind of thinking about compositions and different things like that. And today I want to actually start playing around with and exploring abstract painting. So, one of the things that I wanted to show you guys is the tools that I'll be using. I have a couple of these plaster knives, if you want to call them that. I think that's what they're called. So here's one of them. Here's another one. These are great for drawing like straight lines and things like that. But I think I'm going to try these to see if I can put down a lot of paint at once with them. And I mixed up some colors, and I kind of have a couple different things in my mind when you start going into abstracts. There are things that are very, very important with that, and you build your foundation probably, before you even start thinking, I'm going to take something to abstraction all the way to abstract. So, things that are important: edges, value, your composition, your voice, what you're trying to say, your story. All of these things are very, very important. So, in my mind, I'm thinking about a number of different composition pieces. One of the things I'd like to do is, yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen these Webb, the Webb telescope pictures. I think it's the Webb still, but James Webb. But those other galaxies and star masses and all of the things that are out in space that come up under. They're just beautiful to me, abstracts. There's a center in the picture, there's a focus of the picture, but all these wonderful colors. So I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking of if I had a glass of or a vase of flowers, what could I do to take that to abstraction? And then I also have in my mind the different compositions that Edgar Payne put in his book. This Steelyard, the S, you know, the two different weighted sides, all of those different things that come into play. So, with that in mind, I'm going to be just kind of throwing paint around, although with the idea of a composition. So, if I think about the rule of thirds, there's a couple places that are key. So, I got some very, very, this is a 16 by 20. And I'm not going to draw the line completely down. I'm just drawing it kind of as a guide for me to think about where I want some focal points to be without drawing the complete lines for that. And they might not be exact, and that's okay. I find if I put too much reference in, that's kind of like a reason why I like the swigglies behind it, because I know I'm not going to stick to that. That's a sideways composition anyway. I've turned this with the 20 inches in the long direction this way, 16 this way. Okay. And I'm still trying to decide what I want to do. If I want to, have this as a vase, starting off with a vase over here and some flowers. Actually, the vase needs to be down here a little further, maybe not quite as big. Some flowers there. Take that to abstraction. Maybe a window here or something. Doesn't seem as much fun and as much as getting the look I'm kind of going for. And I'm just going to, I don't think that works any better than my smaller knives. But I'm putting a purple down here. I'm going to come back. I think Put some more on this little knife, this putty knife here. And I'm going more for the space type, something we see in the James Webb. One of my largest palette knives right here. I think loading up the larger one's better if you do it with a smaller knife, but I'm going to kind of bring some of that purple in here. Right now it's very translucent. Yeah, I can see the canvas below it. There's not a lot of paint on there. That's okay. I'll build it up as I do more and more abstraction. You see your marks are close, pretty quickly covered up anyway. Since this is oil, I'm working dark to light. Keep trying, kind of telling myself, don't worry too much about the shape at this point. This is just a background color. Think of the deep void of space, if you will. That dark color there. So I'm kind of coming down to, in my mind, as I work, seeing where I want the dark colors to be. There is an old exercise that we did at Artist Mentors Online with Kevin McPherson. And we would have 2 inch by 3 inch rectangles, and we would divide that space up, color in some, connect spaces, calling them mini compositions. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel where these are at, please do so, because we may start up doing some interesting things that we used to do over on Artist Mentors Online. Okay, so this is very much on the red purple side. And that's fine. That's what I wanted. So I'm going to be messing with reds and yellows. So what might be fun here is just kind of, this is a little more opaque. I like that little swoosh of color there. Don't want it so hard edged. So I'm kind of testing this thing of, here I want the kind of center of attention. So I'm going to change the color up a little bit. I'm just going to throw some color down, see if I like it. I can always paint over it. I love mixing colors on my canvas with my palette knife. Hey, I'm liking where this is going. Having fun with this one so far. About time, huh? Look at that pretty color coming out in there. So I kind of have in my mind what I want going on um, in here. So it's kind of hard to say, you know, I want this to be here, I want this to be there. Um, Mostly focusing on shapes and eye-catching color that melds into a different color, mixes in. So the colors on my palette are all Michael Harding colors. Um, Ultramarine blue, I have alizarin crimson, a yellow lake deep, priori, I can't ever say this one, pyroyal red. Um, I may end up opening some other colors later on. This red I'm putting right here. I don't want particularly the center of that mixing in much. So I kind of picked just a little bit past where these two, more towards the center for what I'm looking at is the center of the design that I'm playing with. Still interested very much in the design. Put down some of the red. So I'm using a light blue that I mixed from my purple color. Well, that looks pretty cool. Take a little more of that, see if I can kind of repeat that here. Just getting the tip of my spatula in there. I'm going to come back with some of the yellow and orange. too much there. Grab that back a bit. And I'm just kind of playing. And this is really kind of fun and creative. And just trying to be mindful of what colors are going where. Something that makes it feel like it's back and forth towards you, away from you. There's a little bit of a gray color here that's coming up from my mixing these two together. And I like that. Once I get this to a place where I really kind of like it, I'll probably change palette knives to something smaller and just kind of work the colors back and forth. And I'm thinking, gases in outer space and how they kind of just, since there's no gravity, they just kind of go where they want to go. Layering things here. Lots of color. Some blending. A little texture. So it kind of becomes the focal point of the abstract. I had some texture left over from the first episode. Still wasn't dry. Still was good on my disposable palette. So I pulled it out, mixed it in with the new colors. So it's allow a little bit of texture to come through and build up. Okay, looks good. Let's work the edges around a little bit. The main thing I want when you look at this is it conveying something to the viewer. Is it a waterfall? Is it a star constellation? Is it a house? Is it flowers? Is it a bit of everything above? Right now, I'm liking this design over here on the side that I'm putting in. I'm working in big shapes of color as I used to say to my first instructor, as I mushed my colors together, he would always tell me to blend. And I would say, okay, blend as in lightly touch something to blend, like this, or mush, like that to blend. So, technical words, the technical words we have. I want to connect these two spots, pull that up so the eye has a doorway, if you will, from one spot to the other spot. So you see, I just laid down some of that light blue green, or light blue, sorry, light blue that I had mixed from my purple mixture. I like that edge right there, so I'm going to leave it alone. Now towards the bottom, you kind of get a feeling of, that feels like ocean or a wave or maybe even a waterfall over rocks. So I'm kind of using my landscape knowledge to add some depth and some interesting spots. Come back with this dark and just laying color in. See if I don't want to mix a color, I just gently tap and lay down color. So I'm mixing up a color that I don't really have on my palette, but or it didn't start with on my palette, but I want to change this a little bit, gray it down a little bit so it's not fighting this. Maybe a little bit of a northern light field to this till you get to this area. It doesn't look so much like that. I'm not going to worry too much about the edges at this point, just mainly because I would just come back with a brush and pull the wet back over that. So just laying more colors in as we go. So I'm using different places on the palette knife to lay some color down. Very tips is just laying in the darker color, tapping down some lighter color, providing a little texture. Another way to stop the eye. You step back a lot. Look and you ask yourself, what color do you want that to be there? So I'm thinking about that focal point, thinking about values, light versus, melding into and blending into the darker values, making a shape a little more interesting. It's like a Ferrari prancing horse if you're into Formula One. So play around with that a little bit. I'm going to come back with some red. All I'm doing is building and playing. I have in my mind kind of what I want this to look like. I don't, not like saying to myself, I want people to sit here and look at this abstract and know exactly what it is. What I want to do is have them interested and looking and gazing at the abstract. Let them decide what they think it is. Maybe there's a couple things going on. Maybe it's a combination of a couple different compositions that I've thrown together. Right now, I'm just trying to paint something that I have in my mind where I want the colors to be. You see my hold on my palette knife. It's not like this. It's not really tight. It's very light, just like how you would hold a brush. I want to connect these reds. Show you something interesting to do with your palette knife when I get to a smaller one. Okay, need to mix up a lighter blue. So the direction that you're mixing gets the different effects in the different places and mixes the color a little bit different, light into dark, dark into light. Not too worried about this area up here. Definitely want it to be mostly dark. So I'm just taking a muddy knife and whatever color comes out, mixes in. I'm going to be okay with that. The other thing I want to think about as well is how can I bring them back into the painting? Because I don't want them to travel off. So maybe there's a splash of color that directs them back, holds their attention just on the edge of where this lighter color that I put in. Still keeping it dark. Again, something to bring them back to the center. This edge needs to be blended. Too straight. So you see I'm pushing up with the darker color, down with the lighter color. I want to carry this dark color out. And I want a secondary focused area that's going to take us up to that area. Kind of repeating the same palette knife work. Yeah, maybe there's an edge, a soft edge that pulls them into this area. You can see that edge now. That head was kind of working like a stop sign. It's kind of nicely embedded now. I'm going to come back with this red and just swirl it down. Make the edges softer and not as linear. There's some dark red right in there. Come back with the light yellow. And I'm going to put a couple dots of this darker yellow in there. Come back with the lighter red. Like so. Remember I said I want this area to be kind of a secondary focal point? Taking, covering a little bit of canvas. I'm going to let that see through in a couple places. Sometimes abstraction, you can take a landscape scene, for example, and just change the colors on it. If you don't want to jump to this stage, take a still life and just change the colors that you're seeing to its complement colors, for example. And that could be the start of your jump off point for going more abstract. And then once you get in there with the different colors, you decide that it won't look so much like a flower or a landscape or a waterfall, but it's definitely more abstract. But you could see the pattern there, the way that it looks, the attention it gives on people's eyes, where they travel. So you need to really think about your design while you're doing this. And not so much about what it actually is. I want the edge over there to be dark. So I'm just working in the dark blue side purple back into there. And just for the fun of it, I'm going to put red down here just to carry that red through as an entry point. So I'm going to put dark color here. So here what I'm doing is I'm just kind of wanting to direct the eye when they come into a picture, into a painting. So just adding some color up here. I'm going to take a little bit of red just because this is so yellow here. And I'm going to put in, mix in some of the red in there. Okay, almost done here. So white area down here, I want to get darker color into. Let it blend in. Okay, I'm going to put some of that yellow, orange there or yellow there. I'm going to come back and I'll put some red with it. And I'm just going to let it blend in with all the paint that's underneath it. I've got a lot of mud going. And it's okay to have that in certain places. That's why I come back in with the dark in places because it gives you some depth. It lets the more muted areas kind of remain that way. Brings things forward, pushes things back, for example. So I like where this is at. Um, so not didn't take all that long. All right, I'm calling that one done. So I need to sign it. You take a very fine brush. Don't know if you'll be able to see how fine that is. Maybe there against the light. Some people use longer, some people use shorter. And you add in a little of the linseed oil or turpentine. You want a very, very wet paint. I always brace against something. I usually always sign on the right. And I think I'm going to change my mind on what color I want. I'm going to just do the pure Pyroli red, pyroli red. I'm going to come right over here. Wet paint sticks to even wetter paint, so you have to have this very wet. There's the first part of it. Don't try to write like you're writing in on a piece of paper. You can also wait till it dries and use a Sharpie. You gotta keep going back and forth. Have patience. So take a guess at what this is actually representing in a now an abstract form. Leave your comments below. Please subscribe to Linda Riesenberg Fisler's page on YouTube. My channel, I call it the Art Chat TV channel. And thank you for tuning in. Put in real close so you can see some of the texture that's in there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. And the magic of painting on the Art Chat TV channel.